I've been collecting and investing in Pokemon for years, and I've amassed a solid collection of sealed products, PSA graded cards, as well as raw cards. And I was thinking to myself, if I started all over again today with the knowledge that I've gained in the past few years, what would I do? Then I came across a video by this creator who recently joined the hobby with the Terrestrial Festival and Prismatic Evolution's hype. He spent well over $10,000 on Pokemon, and when it came time to sell, he found that he lost 40% of his initial investment. He was buying both Japanese and English cards, as well as sealed Pokemon products to rip to go for his chase cards. And this serves as a cautionary tale for anyone who's new into the Pokemon hobby. It is very easy to get swept up in trends and hype periods and dump thousands of dollars into shiny cardboard that might not hold its value. I recommend anyone who hasn't seen it go and watch his video after this one. It's really tough to be vulnerable and honest on the internet and tell a story like that, but I'm glad he was willing to show us the darker side of the hobby and let us learn from it. Now, to avoid losing money and be fiscally responsible collectors and investors, I've made a list of my top 5 tips that I think will both help beginners and seasoned investors in the Pokemon space. And we'll start off with number 5. This is going to be to set clear goals with your Pokemon investing, collecting, or whatever it may be. And you can have multiple different goals across collecting and investing, but defining them is important. For my personal investment goals, I'm looking to pay for grad school with my profits from Pokemon investing. Because of this, I've been honed in on analyzing the market and buying the Pokemon products that I think have the most upside potential long term. This is why the set I spent the most money on back in 2023 and 2024 was Crown Zenith. And right now you can see it's doing pretty well. As for collecting, my goal there is to create a Kanto and a Sinnoh Pokédex binder. The fun for me in Pokemon isn't really in ripping packs. It's more so in looking for the best deals or the best trades I can make to fill my Pokédex binders, as well as moves I can make in Pokemon investing to increase my odds of profiting long term. And because my goals for investing and collecting are very clearly defined, it allows me to avoid all the hype cycles and all the pump and dumps and all the market noise that happens. I just focus on my 2 goals and that's it. For example, even though Prismatic Evolutions is really hot right now and all the evolutions especially are being hyped up by everybody and they have been for the past 6 months, I haven't bought a single Prismatic Evolutions card. Beyond that, I only ever opened a total of 5 Prismatic Evolution packs. The reason for this is because I don't need any of the cards from Prismatic Evolutions to fill my Pokédex binders. For Kanto, I prefer these promo cards from the collection boxes that were released back in, I believe, 2022. And for the Glaceon and Leafeon for my Sinnoh Pokédex binder, I prefer the Crown Zenith alt arts. This saves me a ton of money and I don't go chasing whatever is the new hot thing in the hobby. I stick to what I like and I stick to my goals, and that's pretty much it. Clearly defining your investing and collecting goals will help you from wasting thousands of dollars on cards and sealed products that you don't actually like. Moving on to tip number 4, and this one applies more to investing but also to collecting as well. And it's to avoid giving into FOMO or buying really hyped up cards or sealed products. Rather, the best way to save money and collect and invest in the hobby is to buy cards that aren't being hyped up or sealed products that don't have any hype at the current time. For example, Surging Sparks had tons of hype on release and the booster box peaked around $260 to $270-ish in late February. Then, as hype moved on to Journey Together and Destined Rivals, Surging Sparks booster boxes kinda tapered off, and they dropped to a low of $215 in early June. If you bought this box as an investment at the peak of its hype, you'd be down 10% in value today. But if you bought it at its lowest, you'd be up around 6%. And this difference for buying a product in hype periods or in calm periods is even more drastic in single cards, and is why I really stress having patience and clear goals. 4 months ago, there was tremendous hype focused around alternate art cards. At the time, the Giratina V shot up to $700, and this is because everyone was talking about alternate arts and everyone was hyping them up, so tons of people flocked to buy it. Since then, hype has transferred over to black and white era Pokemon cards like this Reshiram. Then it went over to tag team alt art cards like the Zekrom and Pikachu, which has more than doubled in price in the past 6 months. And we've also seen consistent moves in Mega Evolution cards with the hype of them coming back. But when we look back at the fallout for the Giratina V, we see it has dropped over $200 in price. The people that follow the hype in the hobby and continue hopping from trendy thing to trendy thing are buying at the peaks of value for these cards. I don't know if we're at a bottom for the Giratina V right now, but what I do know is that it's way better to buy this card at $500 now than it was to buy it at $700 4 months ago. So if I could summarize all of this in one sentence, it would be to stop and ask yourself before you buy something, Are you buying it because it fits a part of your collection or your investing goals, or are you just buying into the hype? Now moving on to my third tip, and this is going to be to avoid all of the gambling nonsense in the hobby. First, I want to briefly talk about this from a sealed investing standpoint. If you buy a Pokemon sealed product with the explicit goal of investing in it, and then you decide to open it, what you're doing is essentially taking money out of an investment account and putting it on a hand of blackjack. With one exception, however, your odds of making money opening Pokemon are much lower than your odds of winning a hand of blackjack. And now, I don't want this to seem like I'm saying never open packs, because it's very fun to do here and there. My point is to strictly separate products that you're investing in from products that you're collecting or want to open. Now for collecting. If you love opening Pokemon packs and collecting the cards that you get from those packs, that is perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what I think everyone in this hobby should avoid is those online Pokemon casinos. Many Whatnot and TikTok shop sellers structure their business like a casino. Things like mystery slab bags, energy breaks, or even gambling on the total hit points that all the cards in your pack have. Essentially what you're doing is gambling on top of gambling. And remember, the store is doing this because they have a margin on it. They will win in the end. Also, half the time with these mystery slab bags, they are the worst cards imaginable. They might have an alleged market value of $20 to $30, but nobody wants a CGC-8 Granbull Full Art. Most of these mystery slabs that they give out are filled with a bunch of garbage that the store just can't unload. And then it's bundled in with one chase slab that's worth a bunch of money that gets everyone trying to go for it. But in the end, the odds of you getting that chase slab are pretty much nothing, and the store and the house always wins. Please do not get dragged into these gambling games. Now moving on to number 2, and this one isn't very glamorous, but budget the amount of money that you're willing to spend on Pokemon. This is going to look different for everyone, but it's important to have a budget to prevent yourself from overspending on both investment pieces or collection pieces. And I really want to emphasize this one for people that have addictive personalities. It's really easy to get caught up in the Pokemon hobby because there's so many new sets coming out, there's so many cards, and it's really easy to spend a lot of money. I know most people that have been in the hobby for a while have had a week where they either bought a big card or a big sealed product or a bunch of cards and they spent a ton of money and they're like, ooh, that was a little too much. I think I need to tone it back a little bit. Putting a realistic budget on the hobby and not just taking your credit card and swiping it all away is a smart thing to do. Also, another note with investing, rolling over your profits with previous products that you've had for a while that have appreciated in value and spending that money on newer products rather than taking money out of your bank account to do so is always a great option. This past month, I sold a bunch of my collection boxes and older tins that I have with good packs inside, and I put that money into some newer products that I think have a lot of potential for growth long term, instead of taking money out of my own bank account. It isn't super relevant to budgeting, but I wanted to throw that little tidbit in there because it's a good way to kind of roll money back into the hobby without actually spending more. All right, my number 1 tip is going to be subscribe to this channel. All right, my bad. My actual number 1 tip is going to be learn the process of selling before you go all in on investing or collecting. It's one thing to see the numbers go up on your collector app or on TCG Player, but to actually reap the profits and reap the rewards of your investments, you have to sell these products. And not everything is extremely liquid or easy to sell. So try out selling on Facebook Marketplace, sell sealed and single cards on eBay, or even set up your own website. I don't care where people sell their products, but it's important that everyone gets experience selling before they buy a bunch of stuff and then don't know what to do with it. And beyond this, if you have a Pokemon Center ETB, we'll take Destin Rivals Pokemon Center ETBs. Right now they're $180. If they double or triple in price, when you go to sell them, if you have never sold anything before, people on eBay are going to be really skeptical to buy from you because you're a seller with zero feedback and you're selling a really expensive item. This is why I built up my platform on eBay selling a bunch of smaller items. That way I have good reputation for when I actually want to sell some bigger Pokemon Center ETBs, cases of things like that. Also, the other reason to try it out is because if you learn that you hate packaging stuff up, you hate going to the post office to drop it off, or you hate meeting up with people in person to sell Pokemon cards, then it might just not be for you. And that is also perfectly okay. That's just really important to know before you go all in on Pokemon collecting or investing. So that's my list of 5 tips to help you succeed in collecting and investing in the Pokemon hobby. I hope they were helpful. Let me know down in the comments if they were helpful or if there were any that I missed. But that's all I got for today. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching and stay safe out there.